When I wrote this manifesto, it was about 18 months ago, something like that. And I don't know if I would have had the heart to write it today. So it's a good job I wrote it, because I do agree with it. But I have got more and more alarmed. At least it's difficult to get alarmed, because it's very difficult to apply your imagination to what I'm going to say. But scientists have warned that, that there is something called a tipping point. We've all heard of it. And once the ecological disaster starts to affect everything else, we will be in a position where it is impossible to retrieve the effect of all this. It will just continue, and nothing we do will be able to stop it. Some people say that it's already gone over. A person who probably thinks that is this man James Lovelock, and he is saying that in 100 years' time there will only be 1/5 of the world population. That means that between now and then, all those billions, what is it, 6.5 billion, something like that. So about 5 billion people will die the most horrible deaths in those 100 years. And this, of course, as we know, it's just something we can't even imagine, where, you know, once you get these terrible catastrophes, you're also going to get wars, mass migrations, diseases, killings. It is just horrendous. It's not possible to think of it. He also says that within 20 years, half of London will be underwater, and that means the rest of the world. It's already happening in Bangladesh, of course. And so, you know, and nevertheless, there are some people who say it hasn't gone that far yet. And the one factor that has not been put into the equation is the ability of human beings to respond to a crisis. Now then, so all we've got is public opinion, because the politicians are not doing anything. They dare not tell us what we've all come to believe in. And they cannot say to us, this idea of growth cannot continue. They dare not say that. They keep on talking about competition and growth. And in fact, the world is run to support a few monopolies. And the thing is, as soon as people start to understand that this will make everybody poorer, all I can hope for is that once people really understand it financially, then they will really start to get their act together. And I think this business of the London mayor has got something to do with that. And let me say, first of all, it exposes democracy as a sham, because all I'm saying is we've got public opinion. It's only public opinion that can actually change the situation we've got. We need a different ethic. We need quality, actually. It's the only possible way in which you can think of growth, that maybe if we have quality, including quality of life, it's not going to be, we've got to face up to something totally different than what we're used to. And hopefully we can do this by degrees and even get a better life. It's possible. We might have a wonderful life. I don't know, but the life we've been living, it hasn't made everybody happy, and apart from which it is going to come to an end, and it's better it doesn't end in disaster, and we have to do something about it. I believe that the manifesto links to this, but I'll just deal with what I was saying about the London mayor, first of all, because it does expose democracy as a sham, that there are an awful lot of people who can be influenced. You know, I'm sorry if I just go what just came into my mind, but Socrates, the reason he took the poison is because He was so disgusted how easily people could be influenced. He hated all the sophists who were orators, teaching people to argue one side of the argument or the other, how easily you could trap people into believing what you wanted to tell them. You played on their fears, their vanity, all these, mostly their pockets, and you got them to agree with you. And so it's a terrible problem. And I'm just saying that our opinions are terribly important. They will influence people. Boris is going to have a terrible hard time because things are going to get incredibly terrible and difficult. But the point is, no, not the point, but one point is that I think that when people have decided why they're going to vote, it's because food is getting dearer. The financial fragility of the globe in this situation is having its effect even on Londoners, not only the people in Bangladesh, etc., and in the third world. And so people think, oh, let's have a change, because they're totally conditioned to think that you've got these booms and busts and that somehow the world can keep on going and all we need is a change. And hopefully, you know, something might happen to them financially. I think that's a lot to do with the bottom thing here. But normally, in our society as it is at the moment, we don't have a chance to vote for anybody because all our leaders speak with the same voice. And in this one election in London, we had a brave, noble, fantastic person and somebody the opposite. They're totally poles apart. And so it just is really an example of the problem that we have. Anyway, like we say in the manifesto, you know, all we can hope for is that Alice and Pinocchio have a sane view of life. And what the manifesto is saying is, you can get a life. The motto is, you can get out of things what you put into it. And James Lovelock, when people ask his advice, what do we do? We're the last generation that is not going to suffer so terribly, where this disaster is going to hit. And he just says, well, nobody's going to do anything, have a party. But if you're going to have a party, I just think put something into it, understand the world you live in. And can I just say that this art experience of being an art lover, discriminating, gives you a personal sense of progress, of understanding yourself, of understanding the world. It's an incredible anchor, because say you did just read the newspapers or look at the TV for news and everything, that's a very superficial, horizontal view. You need depth to understand the world that you live in. You need depth to know how it could be different as well, and to question everything that people take for granted. And I just think that even on a personal level, this manifesto gives you a life, you know, get a life, get out there and get a great pair of trousers to wear while you're at it and live. And don't be miserable, but think and do everything you can to form your opinions and affect other people's opinions. But let us just hope that the disasters that will now happen in the next 5 years or so will somehow or other get us a government that has to admit to people what is happening in the world. God knows what's going to happen with the American economy, because what's happening in China is, I'm just thinking it very simplistically, but I just think this is how it is, that China is just essentially buying America's debt. And that means that China is incredibly fragile. It's not necessarily going to be this country that just keeps on flooding the world with cheap goods. Not at all. How are they going to live? Their price of food is going up. They're not getting paid enough. There's terrible unrest in China. It's not necessarily going to be that at all. And I just want to say that what is happening regarding politics is business as usual. And what that really means, the real metaphor for that is, how fast can we run to the edge of the cliff? And I don't want to run to the edge of the cliff with Boris or anybody else. Yeah, so, yeah. Mm-hmm.